Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and as usual, I'm still working and still making new things. Here's the latest. It is a thing called Thunder. So you can see this is not a complicated plugin to use. I always like them that way. This is a sort of compressor, but it's a compressor with a little differentness to it. Here's what it does. You'll notice that this is a sort of synthetic electronic thing with a lot of thumping and deep bass in here. Listen to what happens when I crank up Thunder a great deal. It's going to increase the compression, but something else will happen. We have increased subsonics happening, and then we can make that ridiculous. This is what Thunder is about. We can pull the output right down like this. The point of Thunder is this. I was asked to add a high pass into the sense circuit of my plugin Pressure. Now, Pressure has always worked a certain way. It gets a certain kind of sound, and the variations on that sound have to do with whether it's more very mu or sort of New York style compression thing where it lets the peaks through and the compression kicks in at lower volume stuff. It's a little complicated, and I think of Pressure as existing along this continuum of tones that basically work for what it's doing. Upshot of it is I wasn't feeling the high pass. I'd already added a gain control. Maybe that gave people the idea that that one was meant to work with a high pass. I've actually got a plugin called Purist Squish that's part of the Forpay group of plugins, and that one also has a high pass built into it from the start. Well, this is designed to do a little bit more than that. It's designed, and you notice I have a clipper on the output of this. That's to handle if the bass gets even so huge that it will overload. And that works kind of like this. Here's a dry signal, and then that's the output trim taking it right down again. And this is increasing compression on the plugin, but it can't actually do the thing that compression will also do, which is kind of soak up the bass first, because there's a lot going on under the hood in this one to sort of merge off the bass into a separate thing that's actually mono-friendly and giant PA system friendly. It's not going to be using a lot of extra energy to do out-of-phase bass, which doesn't mean that it's necessarily all mid-side either. It's complicated. There's a lot going on here. But you can hear the difference if you listen to the extreme lows between this and a little bit more in there. And then as the compression continues to increase, it combines with the additional intensity of the main signal. And you can just keep adding the super lows. That's what Thunder is for. Thunder is for doing a more natural, effective version of that EDM trick where you've got a sidechain, and so the sidechain is ferociously ducking everything else just so that you can have the kick, the subs, and thump coming through. And I've got another example here. We can hear it on this funny little track called Alien Kittens. Now with this I can probably show you that even kicking it in with no Thunder added at all will cause an effect. There is a compression that's happening. It's a certain amount of glue. But the point being, you can do this crazy extreme thunder effect, but you can also get glue by sneaking in a little tiny bit of it, even so little that it's not behaving like it's doing super mega ultra bass. Alien Kittens is a weird little composition, but one of the things that it does is it has these sustaining bass notes combined with kick and everything like that, and it's a torture test for low frequencies. So the dries like this, and then there's a tiny effect. Also, thunder brings it sort of pressure adds a kind of fullness. There's a way that it's doing that. There's a saturation factor in there, which is part of its little safety overload prevention. And in pressure, that's also a freebie, by the way. In pressure, the gain control kicks in before that stage, so the gain control does have a tonal effect on the output of the plugin. Well, Thunder doesn't attempt to do anything of the sort. It doesn't get more forwards as you push it harder, as you compress it, because it's designed to be a 2-bus. And my thinking on there was that when you're doing this super low bass, if you're also bringing the highs and mids and stuff forwards and making it more aggressive, it distracts. This is the one for being able to have a kind of top to bottom effect that's really expanded. And that was kind of like this. If I have it at the slow, the extreme lows are kind of blooming just a little bit. And then I can continue to, actually I can cut the level with the output trim, because it does produce pretty intense low bass sometimes. And then that's dry, but if we take it to about half, the extreme lows have a real definition to them. But it's not screwing up these bass notes in here as well that are also having an effect. But you can plainly hear those subs are really doing something. Whereas the dry, not quite so much. Then we're dominating with the extreme lows now, but without completely wiping out the sound of the plugin. Like, I can compare this with dry and listen to the change in the extreme lows. This particular track wants me to push it fairly far, all the way over to 0.624 to get these exaggerated extreme lows, but without it, they're definitely still there. These are not tracks completely lacking in lows, but definite added hugeness. In fact, we can turn off the clip and take it right up to the edge of clipping here. This is a safety clipper. It handles lows pretty well, and it's also free. It's another recent one. And when we take it to this point, what we can hear is that, bear in mind, Alien Kittens already uses up all of the volume levels. There's no farther to push the lows. They are already enhanced as far as they can, and yet we'll see that by turning on Thunder, the lows will get even bigger. And on. I think this must be useful to at least somebody. I know I'm going to be enjoying it. And then, of course, we can make it ridiculous. That's pretty ridiculous. But did we say ridiculous? Let's go more ridiculous. With to what those lows do. Now that's, well, no, that's not getting crazy. This is getting crazy. Don't do that. It's just silly. But it doesn't only work on electronic music. Here's an example of, I'm going to put it back to, here's an example of it working on rock style music. Listen to what happens to the lows with this. We've already got a sub on the kick there. Let's go further. Now this is right around, and I'm going to explain this. Thunder pretty much has multiple sweet spots with everything that you do. Like if I was running this at full crank directly into clip only, and I wanted to just bloom out the extreme lows a little bit without adding that ridiculous undercurrent of subsonics, I'd get something like this. Spot for essentially not changing anything, not doing a radical change other than glue factor. So without it, you got this. Like that. But then if you want to start adding the extreme subs, I can take the output level down maybe a little bit, knowing that it's going to be putting a lot of energy into there. And technically you can leave the output level up and just handle it with the limiter or clipper of some kind. Doesn't have to be clip only. The Apple peak limiter works pretty well. But hopefully you've got something that can monitor extreme lows pretty well. Headphones will probably do a fairly decent job of it. Listen to the difference between that and the super lows on the kick here. And bear in mind this super lows enhancement is also happening merged with the sound in a way that I don't feel you really get by just putting a high pass on there. With that, all you're going to get is the existing lows. This is not the existing lows. This is a transformation of the existing lows to work with a compressed sound. And it might not sound all that compressed because, unlike pressure, it's not congealing everything into a more upfront sort of sound. It is handling it in such a way that it's retaining more of the sound of the mix. And I thought that was important to have on a 2-bus type compressor. It gives you more range to do stuff like different clippers and limiters and things after this compressor, or indeed to just pat it down with the trim. So again, we'll hear what this is like going into the extreme added kick. And then we'll extreme it a little bit more like this. That's giving us more of a, the super lows are kind of replacing the regular kick. It's really kind of taken over. But I can go farther. Now we've got a silly sort of exaggerated throb. That was actually an early name for this plugin was throb, but thunder is probably more appropriate. Well, we're having fun with it. Let's see what it sounds like when turned up as loud as it'll go, and exchange that or demo that relative to the uncompressed version. This is what you get before, and then you dial in the insane lows and you get this. probably shouldn't use that much lows, or this much lows. Trust me that this is better than just putting a high pass. A high pass won't do this. Generally, if I have an opinion about a better way of doing something, it's for a reason. Now, it's okay if you prefer a high pass, but as far as handling compressors and retaining subs through them, I just like this a lot better. I just like this a lot better. So for a little outro here, what I'm going to do is just play this in Insano mode. We don't even need the clipper. I can take it away now. All padded down, and I'm going to gradually sneak it back down until it is closer to the original mix again. Listen to the changes as it goes through. One of the tricks of Thunder is that just about all of this is usable in different contexts. It just depends upon what kind of effect you want to do, but this should give you all different behaviors, and all of the behaviors will have their uses in different contexts, like down here for just gluing with some low frequency bloom and expansion, but without really changing the balances, to bringing in a serious low frequency, to exaggerated, obviously compressed effects, to complete and total lunacy, as follows. Wait. Okay, let's make this go back down again. Thunder is an audio unit and Mac and PC VST. It's a stereo plugin by design, so you're going to need to run it in stereo. And it costs nothing. Back in the old days, I used to say it's $50. It's not. Go ahead and download it and enjoy it. This work that I'm doing with developing these new things is supported by my Patreon, which should be fairly easy to find. And the goal is to get the Patreon up to a level of $800 a month, at which point I will start putting out the for-pay plugins that have always sold for $50. And I'll just start putting those out there so that people can have them. For the time being, I will just keep doing this work. I hope you like it. Thanks.